You save $500 a month for 3 years straight. You check your investment account, expecting to feel like a financial genius, and the balance reads $19,000. Congratulations, you could almost buy a used Honda Civic. Meanwhile, your coworker who started investing a decade ago just posted that his portfolio grew $47,000 last quarter. He didn't add new money. The market did that for him while he was on vacation. You want to throw your laptop out the window. This is the part of wealth building nobody warns you about. The beginning doesn't feel like building wealth. It feels like stuffing cash into a mattress that's slowly deflating. You're doing everything right, maxing your Roth IRA, buying index funds, living below your means, and your net worth is crawling forward like a drunk snail. What you're experiencing isn't failure, it's physics. Imagine pushing a 2-ton slab of granite up a mountain. The first 100 feet are agony. You're drenched in sweat and you've barely moved. This is you from zero to your first $100,000. It's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to feel impossible because right now you're doing 100% of the work. But there's a specific point on that mountain, a mathematical threshold, where the angle shifts just enough that gravity stops fighting you and starts helping. The boulder begins to roll on its own. That's the snowball effect, and it doesn't start on day one. It starts after you've already bled for it. When you're starting from zero, your investment returns are mathematically useless. If you have $5,000 invested and the market goes up 10%, you made $500. That's dinner, not life-changing money. In the early phase, roughly the first 5 to 7 years for most people, almost all your account growth comes from you manually shoveling money in. Compound interest is happening, but on such a small base it's invisible. You save $6,000, the market gives you $400. Your brain registers, I did all the work, and you're right. This is the phase where people quit. They see a friend buy a boat, look at their $23,000 brokerage account after years of sacrifice, and think, what's the point? The point is, you're building the foundation for a machine that will eventually run without you. But foundations are underground. Nobody sees them. The math says it takes about 7 to 8 years of consistent investing to hit that first $100,000. That's 2 presidential terms, long enough to forget why you started. But that $100,000 is the activation point. Once you cross it, something shifts in the equation. Suddenly, a 10% year doesn't give you $500, it gives you $10,000. That's a used car appearing in your account because the market had a good quarter. Your money has started pulling its weight. The second $100,000, climbing from $100,000 to $200,000, typically takes about 5 years, not 8. Same contributions from you, but the math has changed sides. The market is now doing enough heavy lifting that the boulder is visibly rolling faster. You're still pushing, but you're no longer the only engine. By the time you have $400,000 or $500,000, a strong bull market year might add $60,000 or $80,000 to your account. You didn't save that. You probably saved $15,000 and the market did the rest. That's the crossover point, when the market earns more for you in 1 year than you can save from your job. The first $100,000 is 80% brute force, 20% market returns. Your only lever is increasing how much you shovel into the machine. Earn more, spend less, save the difference. It's not sexy. The other lever is time. Every year you delay starting is a year you lose at the back end when compounding does the most work. Starting at 25 versus 35 could mean retiring comfortably at 55 or grinding until 70. Here's the mistake that kills momentum. You're 5 years in with $60,000 saved. You're exhausted. You see a car you want and pull out $20,000. You just reset the snowball. You're not just losing $20,000, you're losing all the compound growth that money would have generated over the next 20 years. The only rule during the push phase is don't stop pushing. Once you're past $500,000 or $600,000, the game changes. You stop checking your account weekly because the swings are so massive they're counterproductive. A bad month might drop your portfolio $30,000. A good month might add $50,000. These aren't numbers you saved. They're numbers the market is moving, and you're along for the ride. Your relationship with money gets weird. You might lose what used to be 6 months of salary in a dip and just shrug because you've internalized it's not real until you sell. Let's say you have $700,000. The market has an average year at 8%. That's $56,000 in growth. You probably contributed $18,000 from your paycheck. Your money earned 3 times what you saved. The portfolio, sitting there doing nothing, out-earned your labor. That's not a flex, it's geometry. People ask when you actually feel rich. The answer is never. The goalpost moves. But there is a moment when you feel untouchable, when your portfolio's bad year is still better than your good year at work, when the market tanks 15% and you lose $120,000, but your account still grew $30,000 because you kept contributing. That's when you stop flinching. Now, the ironic mistake. You spend a decade clawing to $600,000, living below your means. Then you hit the number and think, I made it. Time to enjoy life. You buy the dream house, finance the car, book the trip. Suddenly, your lifestyle costs jump 40%. You go from saving $20,000 a year to saving $5,000. You just kneecapped the exponential phase right when the boulder was about to roll downhill on its own. The next $300,000 would have taken 4 years. Now it will take 9. The smarter play is to keep living like you're broke for just 3 more years. At $700,000, if you keep contributing $20,000 a year, you'll hit $1 million in under 4 years. Once you're at $1 million, the math is obscene. A 10% year is $100,000. You could stop contributing entirely, let it sit for 20 years at 7% growth, and retire with $6 million. But if you inflate your lifestyle now, you're extending the timeline by half a decade. The difference between $700,000 and $1.2 million isn't just $500,000. It's the difference between I'm doing okay and I'm actually free. There's a psychological trap, too. Once your net worth hits 7 figures, you feel you should be doing something fancy. You pull $200,000 out to buy a rental property because that's what wealthy people do. Now you're a landlord with a second job that pays maybe 5%. You turned your passive snowball into active work. The boring truth is that the best thing you can do with a 7-figure portfolio is absolutely nothing. Let it compound. Don't get clever. The S&P 500 has beaten most hedge funds, landlords, and entrepreneurs over any 20-year period. You already won. Don't blow it trying to win harder. You're at $1.5 million at age 50. The math says you're free. A 4% withdrawal rate gives you $60,000 a year, inflation adjusted, forever. If you can live on that, you're done. But most people don't quit. They're terrified the market will crash, or they've tied their identity to their job. The portfolio is no longer the constraint. Psychology is. Here's the hardest truth. The most difficult part isn't the math. It's sitting on a pile of money that could change your life right now and choosing not to touch it. At $1.5 million, if you withdraw $100,000 for something big, you're not just losing $100,000. Over 20 years at 7%, that money would have turned into $387,000. You didn't spend $100,000, you spent nearly $400,000. And once you break the seal, you do it again. That's how people with $2 million end up back at $800,000. What does it feel like when you don't cave? You keep contributing through your 50s. Your portfolio hits $2 million at 55, $2.5 million at 58, and maybe $3 million by 60. At that level, a 4% withdrawal gives you $120,000 a year. That's living comfortably, traveling, helping your kids, and still leaving a 7-figure inheritance. You built a machine that generates wealth while you sleep, and it will outlive you. But the final boss of financial independence isn't the math, it's identity. If you've spent 30 years defining yourself by your career, retiring feels like erasing yourself. That's why people with $3 million still show up to work on Monday. Your portfolio can't fix that. If you've never figured out what you want your life to be about, even $10 million will feel empty. So if you're anywhere on this journey, whether at $50,000 or $1.5 million, the strategy is the same. Automate everything. Contribute consistently. Ignore the noise. Don't touch the snowball. And while you're grinding through the push phase, start building a life outside of work that you'd actually want to live full time. Because the portfolio will get there. The math is relentless. But if you arrive at financial independence with no hobbies, no relationships, and no purpose, you didn't win. You just traded one prison for another. The goal isn't just a number. It's a life where the number stops mattering because you've built something worth living even without it. That's when you know you're actually free.
Nobody will throw you a parade when you hit your first $100,000. You'll just log on a random Tuesday, see six figures, and probably feel nothing because you've been staring at spreadsheets for 8 years. But that's the point. The activation isn't supposed to feel like winning the lottery. It's supposed to feel inevitable because you built a system that works whether you're paying attention or not. The boring middle phase, somewhere between broke and free, isn't a waiting room. It's where you figure out who you actually are when money stops being the main character in your story. The people who make it to real, lasting wealth aren't obsessed with their net worth. They're the ones who got so focused on building a life they didn't want to escape from that the portfolio just happened in the background. So if you're still in the push phase, grinding it out, watching your account move like continental drift, don't stop. You're not behind. You're exactly where the math says you should be. And if you're already past the activation point, sitting on $500,000 or more, don't get stupid now. The finish line isn't a number. It's the moment you realize you don't need to keep score anymore because you already built something that outlives the scoreboard.